Good day buddies. We've got this queen ant hunting trip almost 3 months ago, and lots of the queens we've caught has some workers already. And ready for a new home. We're moving 2 different ant species today. One for easier maintenance, and one to boost progression. And for today's video, we'll be making an ant farm using this acrylic containers. An ant home with 2 types of nesting space, and 3 ways of hydration. Before we start, let me appreciate our awesome channel members. Jeffrey Miles, Sean, and the new addition M-Pro Gamer. Thank you buddies for supporting the channel, and our future project. You may check the pinned comment about our project, and the perks we have for our members. Let me also say welcome back buddies. And for those new to the channel, you're also welcome to D-Colony. When making DIY ant farms, I always choose the containers with tight-fitting lids to prevent escapes and easy wild ant invasion. I'll put the links on the description buddies, check them out, they're so cheap. For this build, we're gonna sacrifice 1 container to be used as mold. So we'll greatly reduce scratches on our finished products. We'll explain more of that later on. Our first step is filling the bottom part with moist sand, at least 1 centimeter high. This step was similar to our cup and farm before, as we're also making a water reservoir here. Next thing we'll do is place a tubing on a spot just under the nest. This is for the first way of hydration. We'll just surround it with moist sand, at least another centimeter. Then just beside it, we're gonna construct a little mound-like of sand. This is for the water tower, or the second way of humidification. After that, we're just gonna mix a sanded grout. I love using sanded grout on my builds, as it has a variety of colors. But whenever I ran out of it, I mixed one myself using a normal tile grout, and fine sand. Whatever color I decided, I used the ratio of 2 parts tile grout, and 1 part fine sand. On how much water? It depends on the project. Less water to make it thick like this, which I typically use on manual applications. And more water, to make a watery mixture like this one, which I love to use when pouring into molds. Just remove the tubing we placed earlier, then fill the hole it leaves using the sanded grout. Pour an amount for the flooring next, at the level of the sand mound we made earlier. Then we'll top it with a 100 micron mesh, just larger than the area of the elevated sand. Then we'll secure center with moist sand, to make way for water evaporation from the reservoir at the bottom. Next thing we'll do, is construct the first type of nest on this formicarium. Like always using moist sand, just pile them up, shape it how you want the nest to look like. Just don't forget to leave a way for the entrance. I'm making mine at the corner. Top it with a layer of grout. Then on the other side we'll construct the second type of nest that this ant farm will offer, which is the substrate type. We'll apply the same logic as the first one, free the area by filling it with moist sand. This will be the area for the substrate nest later on. Anyway, I created a space here that will serve as a strong support post for the chambers that the ants will make later. Then we fill it with another layer of sanded grout. I made a U-turn for the entrance of the first nest, so the substrate from the other nest won't fill it easily, or accidentally. And finally, the last layer of sanded grout to cover the nest entrance. Topped it with dry sand, then we'll let it set for a day while on this slanting position. The next day we just need to remove the hardened nest inside, by tapping it like this. Removing the concrete will inevitably leave scratches on the acrylic surface. Main reason why we sacrifice one of them is a mold. Just imagine how many scratches can be made by removing, then returning it back to the same container. Too much scratches will end up making our view of the ants blurry, so we want to avoid that as much as possible. We'll just remove all the sand, leaving just the hardened grout. This is what they look like after rinsing it with water. This is also a great time to do some carving, if there's some unwanted parts we want to clear. Like the entrance here, I didn't notice that it had been blocked by the flow of grout mixture. No worries, it's just 24 hours past, so it's still soft, and easy to be carved. Anyway, we made two of these since two different species needs them. Both have two types of nest. This is the one we made earlier, which has 3 types of hydration, while this second one has only 2. We'll reveal what and how all 3 types of hydration works later. For now, let's install them on this brand new containers. We just need to drill the needed holes, one for refilling water to the reservoir, and like on every ant farm, we need at least one expansion prepared for the future. As usual, I'm installing a 4mm drinking straw on the reservoir, and a 4mm silicone plug to block evaporation, and another silicone plug for the expansion hole for now. Next is, we're just filling the second nest with substrate. I'm using a sterilized cocoa peat. You can also use dirt, but make sure it's clean or free from harmful organisms such parasites or pest. Then we can proceed and water it. Watering the substrate directly will hydrate the 2 nests that present here bodies, as the water will not only be absorbed by the substrates, but the concrete nest as well. And we can see it clearly here. This is the first way of hydration. Then if we water the reservoir, and fill it with enough water until it reached the post-like thing we made earlier, we'll activate the second way of hydration, as it will absorb the excess water that will moisten up the flooring of both nests. It will take time as it will absorb the water slowly. Don't go impatient and put lots of water, as you don't want too much wet on the flooring. What you'd want is just a nice moist flooring looking like this. And the third hydration buddies is this. The water tower, or more like of just a humidification. The mesh will allow evaporation from the water reservoir below, which will supply constant humidity in the nest. It's now time to move the ants, but anyway, we prepared this lid with escape prevention barrier yesterday. When making an opening to the lid of an acrylic container like this, I always start by drilling a hole. Then use a culping saw to cut the opening that I need. The remaining space here on the lid is a great place for the escape prevention barrier. I want the barrier under the lid as much as possible, as it makes the effect of it last longer compared when it's applied to the side. The first ants we're moving is a colony of carpenter ants we raise on this cup with cocoa peat. We need to move them as feeding and cleaning is getting a lot harder as the days passed by. As we can see, the substrate is getting higher and higher as the colony below expand their nest, which is now almost reaching the lid. The problem is the cup won't fit, so I cut the upper part. I needed to be careful to not injure the ants or collapse their tunnels. It takes time, but we did it. We're using this temporary lid for now because of too much moisture. As we can see, the moist substrate on the cup is near the top. If we use the prepared lid with barrier now, we'll just wear out the flow on, as its weakness is high humidity. We'll replace it later after the colony move. While waiting for them to move, let's meet the next one, which is this beautiful trap jaw queen, and we got 4 of these from the trip. 2 winged queen died at the second and third week. And 1 duelet died on a tub and tubes with dirt set up, caused by mites. It's my fault for using a collected soil on the spot where we got the queen, as we run out of the sterilized one that we brought on the trip. This is the only one remaining which is on the cup with dirt. Luckily she has no mites. But unfortunately in 2 months, the farthest she got is into 2 larvae stage broods. And now back to just eggs. I'm sure it's because the cup is being shaken a lot every feeding, as the lid is pretty tight. As this trap jaw ant species is pretty sensitive buddies, and they will eat their broods when stressed. My mistake is I thought she's okay here, since she got some larvae before the 2nd month. So, we need to move her to a setup that we won't shake her up every feeding. And we need to hurry and let her move this way, as I suspect she's currently broodless now. I didn't expect her to move this fast though. You may notice those tiny little white insects from the dirt on the cup, they're springtails. I've added them to her old setup to control molds, as this type of ants drag their food inside their nest. And sometimes never bring the leftover outside, and it's really bad if they end up molding inside. So we seek the help of springtails whenever I raise this ant species, and as bonus they will also serve as additional food for the queen. Like what we are feeding on our Anochitus colony on their ant farm that we featured on our previous video. Anyway, while the queen is exploring her new place, I searched it up. And as I have suspected, she's back to being a broodless queen. But I hope she can still recover, and now feel less stressed on her new home. As she's our last trap jaw queen from the trip. We gave her a drop of honey, and we're gonna place this setup now in a nice and quiet place. But anyway, we're using a lid with barrier here even though trap jaws can't climb smooth surfaces. This is to prevent the springtails to go out, and for wild ant invaders to go in. Going back on the other setup on the left, we vacuumed the dried top layer on the cup to make them move faster. And at night they started digging under it. The next morning the migration is done, and we absolutely missed it. We'll just remove the cup now. We've seen a cocoon over there, too bad. I'm hoping to see the queen. We covered the concrete nest with this red acetate film, to see if they'll change mind and move on it instead. Like what the trap jaw queen did. Anyway, 3 years ago I uploaded this clip of ants on my Instagram. I took it on the same place where we went for the recent trip. Is it just me or they somehow look similar buddies? What we have on the colony now is still mostly nanitics. But let me know, what do you think buddies? It would be so cool if we somehow managed to catch a queen of the same species, as I love them. I remember watching them over an hour in the wild before. But anyways, let me give a shout out to my fellow ant enthusiasts, our buddy piss ants. Like me, he makes cool DIY stuffs too. Hope some of you can give him a visit or support in this awesome world of ant keeping. And this is it for this episode, buddies. Hope you stay tuned to all of our pet ant colonies update, especially to the colony we featured on this video. I just hope you have learned something from this video, guys. Be a genie for the first time by granting my wish and tapping the like and share button. That would help a lot. This is D Colony, saying goodbye for now, but hoping to see you on my next videos.